Well, the duck is back. Today, I'm just going to try and do things with this thing on the sideways. So, just to give a wider view. Why it hadn't dawned on me before, but anyway, so where are we up to? We've made the new puller. So this goes on here. I don't know how this is going to go because anyway. This is the finished. This is the finished pusher. It'll become all a bit clearer when you see the photos of how I've made it all and everything. But anyway, and this I've made this to take the standard Harley one and anyway, bit of a insert there just to hold that end. I'm just doing a video, sweet. And this goes. I've cocked up that now. Get that on the big jobs. So that, as I showed you the other day, that goes on there like so. I'm still thinking about putting 2 nuts on the end here, or one, and welding it to hold it, but I'm sort of flip-flopping on that at the moment. And that goes in there like so. Oh no, sorry, I've changed my mind on putting a nut there. I think I'm just going to make it so it slides off. And the reason why I was putting a nut on there was the idea was so I could hold it to stop it spinning. But I don't think I'm going to do that now. And then this nut, this is what will push it on, but I'm going to weld this inside a bigger nut so it's just easier to grab. But I got to that point, and then I was like, well, how am I going to stop this from turning? And then I realized I've got to have the sprocket on to lock it all up. Otherwise, the whole thing is just going to want to turn. I can't hold it. So, and then that made me remember that when I took the sprocket off, it took me about, I don't know, it took about bloody 2 hours, because unlike a drive belt, a drive belt bike, because I'm running a chain, I don't actually take the sprocket off very often. I think this is the third time I've had this sprocket off the whole time I've owned this bike, and the reason being is that unlike a belt, a chain, the chain has a joiner. So once this is fitted and the bike's back together, when it comes to replacing a chain, I just take off the old, split the old one, I hook the new one to it and use the old one to pull it in. Now, and a lot of you will be saying, or a lot of mechanics are saying, oh yeah, but you've got to replace the sprocket. You've got to replace the sprocket every time you replace the chain. But here's the thing, a useful tip to you all, is that you don't. And what I found is that if you replace the chain, I've mentioned this before on this to you guys, if you replace the chain before it gets past its stretch specs, or it wears to a point, if you change it before it starts clipping the top of the tooth. And when I say clipping the top of the tooth, it's when the sprocket is here like this, and the chain, because the dimensions between the links have stretched, it starts clipping the top of the tooth. Instead of going between them, it starts hitting the top of the tooth. And the trick is to replace the chain just as it starts to do that. And if you do that, if you replace the chain, good quality chain every time, you'll get what I'm getting is about 10,000 K out of one chain. And then this front sprocket, I'm getting, I worked it out the other night in my head. On the last sprocket that I replaced on this bike, when I had the gearbox out last time I put this new sprocket on, I worked it out, I'd got roughly around 60,000 plus K out of that front sprocket. Now, because it was about, it wasn't long after I got this bike, it had about, from what my memory was, I think it was about something around 55,000 K when I got it. And then it wasn't long after that I got so paranoid about looking for rocks and stones on the road, I just got a kit and changed it from drive belt to chain. And then at some point there, either one of my mates or I worked out anyway, as long as you replace, this is like 20 years ago or more, as long as I replaced that chain early, before it wore out, really got really bad, I wouldn't have to replace that front sprocket. And that was so true. And like I say, I'd done over 60,000 K before I had to go in there. So, long story short, the last time I came, even though it had been, I'd not long been in there to rebuild the gearbox, I couldn't get this bloody nut undone. And of course, what the manual says to do again is you put it in gear, and then you get someone to sit on the brake, which is a bloody pain in the ass when you're a one-man show. So I have decided yet again to make another tool to do this job for me. I've got the tool to hold it for a drive belt, that's not a problem. But for a drive chain, to hold this sprocket, I haven't. So I've just devised a cunning plan to make this tool. And oh God, another tool, you know. And I was talking about this with my partner today, and she says, "Oh, I thought that last tool was, the last one to make." And I said, "Yeah, well, as it turns out, no, because." And then I was trying to explain to her the reason for it, and it's the bloody time. If you can imagine trying to hold this without putting, I don't want to have to put all the chain. I've got other work to do on the back of the bike. I don't want to do that now. I want to put all of this back together and then do the work down there. And that means I need to be able to hold this sprocket tight. without having to put the chain on and get someone to hold the back brake on and blah, 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 you know. So this is where we're up to now. So I'm going to take you up to the other workshop and I'll show you where I'm up to on the next tool. Bear with me. I'm going to pause it while I walk up to the other workshop. Right, here we are. And just to show you guys, this sprocket here, was the one what I'd done like 60,000 K on it. And if you have a look at it, it's still got life. And I know that some of you followers have been following me for a while now. You will just, you know that I've talked about this before, so I won't bore you any longer with it. So this is where we're up to at the moment. So this is a bit of chain I'm going to use. This little bit of, it is, I don't know, I think it's 25 by 25 with a 3mm wall box section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that here. I'm going to have to hold this and watch what I'm doing. I can see that. I'll probably weld it here and then it'll go around to here. And then I'll have some sort of finger, a steel finger, what goes over here, what holds it over here. And then I'll cut this. I'm not sure, I haven't quite worked out where I'm going to cut this. I'll cut this here somewhere, right? And then I'll weld this threaded rod here. I'll weld this threaded rod onto here, into this, and then there'll be a bit of, this has to be cut to about 3 or 4 inches, because if you can imagine, it's got to be, so I can thread it, it's got to be short enough to thread through that loop, what I'm going to put over here, thread through that up to here, some sort of a guide on it, and then I'll have a nut system here somewhere to spin it up tight, and then this piece of pipe here will be across the swing arm. Okay, and that will, I think that will work brilliantly. Right, I'm just going to pause this again. Right, back down in the other workshop. It's just because the holder's down here. There was a point that I was going to make. I think I touched on it actually. Is the time factor, and the I would like to point out to you, guys and girls, I've worked in a lot of professional companies. Lots of these companies, they don't have, which is why I went into business for myself, because it had actually got to the point where the last four places I had worked for, I actually had more gear and tooling than what these companies did themselves, and I was having to bring my tooling to work to get the job done. And then I was thinking to myself, well, hang on a minute, why am I working for these other companies for $30 an hour, and then bringing my specialist tools, and then they're charging me out at $70 an hour or whatever they were, when I could do it direct myself. So anyway, long story short, I went into business myself, and now I find just more and more and more, I'm finding these tools. It's just, yes, it's time, and yes, it's time and money. But now, when the next time somebody brings me a gearbox, I will be able to do it so fast, it will be scary, regardless of whether it. And I'm not talking about, all these weird and wonderful bikes. I'm talking about big block Harleys. That's pretty much what I do. I mean, I've had one Sportster here in I think two. No, I'm going to lie now. No, it was. I think I've had about 3 Sportsters here in the last 5 years, and most of the work I do are on big block Harleys. So what I'm trying to do now is just set all the tooling up as much as I can. If I haven't got it, if I haven't got it, I try and buy it. If I can see that the price that they're wanting is ridiculous, or I think I can make it, I get it. And now I've got a whole bloody cupboard dedicated to Harley tools, this being the latest one. Anyway, practically on. It's a Friday, and I can hear the thirst coming on. And anyway, have a good one. And when I get that next tool made up, which is going to be the chain sprocket holder, or the drive sprocket holder, something like that I'll call it. And that's the whole idea. And it'll just basically it'll take, I believe, another 4 hours. Well, it's just so much dicking around trying to hold this and tighten this, and then you can do damage to other components because you're trying to do it a dodgy way. And I'm overdoing dodgy shit, man. It's like I said to the last 2 employers, hey mate, I'm getting too old for this shit. You want to do the dodgy thing, you let me know. You get somebody else to do it, I should say. And I just remembered a funny story, actually, I was going to tell you on a different note. I had to go and do some work on the rental the other day, and anyway, the tenants were there, and he had to go to work, and he went to the work, and I was using the front door, and on this house it's got 2 doors on the front. It's got like the front door of the house, and then the old owners put the security door on the front. It's got bars, and so you can leave this door open in summer and get the breeze through. And I went through this door, never even thought that the bloody the tenant had locked it on the way out. Pulled the door shut, and of course this screen door had a deadlock on it as well. So I was stuck between the 2 windows, the 2 doors, and it was yesterday or the day before, the hell of a storm going on. So I'm standing there in the front of the house, and the wind and the rain's coming in, and like freezing me gonads off, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? And I stood there for about 5 minutes. I didn't have my phone on me. I couldn't ring anyone. I had the car keys on me. I didn't have the keys, the house keys on me. They were in the car because the tenant had let me in. And then just fortunately, it seemed like 10 minutes, but it was probably only about 4. The neighbour, I see the neighbour get in the car, so I pushed my screen up to the screen. I'm like, hello, can you help me? You should have seen the look off this David boy. Fuck, it was worth a million words. And I said, oh, I'm the landlord. I'm just locked. I've locked myself in. Can you help me? And she come over, and it was pretty funny. And luckily I had the car keys in my pocket and unlocked the car, and she found the keys and locked me and let me out. But by God, I was just like, and I was just standing there going, do I kick the door in? You know, like I kicked the door and shit, that's a whole heap more drama, or whichever door I kicked out or kicked in. And then I was like, I had this vision of me standing there until the other tenant came home that afternoon, and I was crawled up in the ball in the front door with hypothermia. But anyway, yeah, it's all good. Anyway, fattening on. You have a good one, and we'll show you the next stall in the next video. All right. Have a good one.